Hey, what's up, everybody? So I want to talk about self-reliance real quick. The definition of self-reliance means learning to depend on yourself rather than seeking constant validation or approval from others, like the government. I am constantly trying to work on being self-reliant, and so should you, which is why I've partnered up with My Patriot Supply. Having served millions of American families, My Patriot Supply is the most trusted name in survival, and for good reason. If you go to preparewitheddy.com right now, you can save up to $200 on their best-selling 3-month emergency food kit. This emergency food kit comes with over 2,000 calories per day and lasts up to 25 years. Once again, that's go on preparewitheddy.com and save up to $200. That's preparewitheddy.com. Thank you and God bless.
Welcome to Shoot Me Straight. Dave Fields, Eddie Gallagher. Today we're here with Brandon, and I'll screw up your last name.
Kynoch.
Yeah.
Kynoch?
Kynoch, there you go.
He is...
Kynoch, or is it Kynoch?
Kynoch.
You gotta say it with the...
with the accent.
The South African accent?
Yeah.
Brandon's from South Africa. He's interned with us. He's at UT now, but has interned with us twice now. This is second summer interning with us, doing a bunch of mobile app development.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Brandon.
It's sweet. Best summer ever.
You've seen this happen a million times, and now you're actually on here.
Yeah.
We were just talking about how Brandon was here when we were talking about doing a podcast and just thinking through it, a little over 2 years ago?
Yeah, so, for the viewers, it was 2 years ago, I was redoing Dave's mobile app for his company, Redbox. And that was right as the podcast is getting started up. Yep. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
Look where it is now.
Look at you now.
Yeah.
So start off where you're born, go through.
So I guess I'll quickly run through like my story. Yeah. So born and raised in South Africa my whole life, and in Johannesburg, South Africa. Went to middle school and high school there, and I got into programming at a super young age. So I was always very like nerdy as a kid growing up, and I loved video games. And one day I literally just very naively decided like, hey, I want to make my own video game. It's not that hard, right? And so I started learning everything I could, like teaching myself through the internet, and all like free resources, just YouTube, and just trying to learn everything I could. And that's how I got into game development and app development. And so I started super young. I was started programming at 11. I decided I'm going to like create my first game professionally when I was 13. And I set out with this huge goal of like, I'm going to make a game and publish it on the App Store. So I worked on this one for 2 years, and eventually released it when I was 15. And this was the crazy thing was, couple weeks later, I had Apple reach out to me and say like, hey, we love this thing. We want to hear more about your company. Tell us about yourself, and how many people do you have working for you? And this was like a personal, so one of the managers at Apple, and I replied, I was like, hey, I'm a 15-year-old in high school. I made this thing by myself, and it's been my passion project for the last 2 years. And that was kind of like what sparked my app development career.
What did they respond with when you told them that?
They immediately were like, we need to meet you. And so they set up like a meeting. I went to their office, and they just set up a new office in Johannesburg. And they actually, so just after that, like same time frame, I had decided I wanted to go into more like hyper casual games. So like the more like, very, very casual, quick to play games. And so the next one I made in just 3 weeks, and I published that game, and that was the one which was a huge hit. So it had 100,000 downloads on the first day. It was game of the day in 137 countries, and it's got about 500,000 downloads now.
What kind of game is it?
So it's like literally,
what's the name of it?
It's called Taurus. Mm-hmm. That's what really like kickstarted my app development career. Basically, the idea is that you just like tap on these dots and it gets progressively harder, and very casual and simple idea, but it was like very addictive to play, and very anyone could play it really. If it was like a kid or old person or whatever. And like boys and girls, whatever, just like appealed to everyone. And that's why it had such like big success. But
what kind of games were you playing when you were younger, like before you started wanting to make your own?
I mean, I loved like shooters. Honestly, I loved like open world games where you could like explore and create things. But that was the funny thing is once I got into like making video games, I enjoyed it so much more than like playing video games. When I started making video games, I stopped playing them because it's like, it was 10 times more satisfying to like make something and get that feeling of like accomplishments making this and just like playing a video game. And it was obviously great because like I was doing something worthwhile.
Yeah.
But yeah, once Apple reached out to me, they appointed me, like I literally had like a PR agent. They did a full press release in South Africa. So I had huge media in South Africa. After they did this press release, I had like basically every single news outlet and radio station and reach out to me. And there was a point where I had interviews like basically 2 a week.
Wow, at 15.
Yeah, at 15. And it just all happened overnight like this. So I remember, after I released that game, I didn't really like see it coming, but I remember like the nights where like, it was live on the App Store and it was getting featured and I could see the downloads coming through. Waking up to see like 15,000 downloads in the morning. I could see it coming through each time zone, like the people downloading it as the day changed over. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, just it was crazy, like being so young and just having like such change. And at the same time, I was just like a normal high school student. People like didn't really like it. It wasn't really a thing until I had like, nothing really changed like in my life until like I started getting these big like interviews and stuff and was like in newspapers. And so the biggest one was like Carte Blanche. They did like that's like our biggest news outlets in South Africa. And they did like a little segment on me. Remember that was super cool. They like came to my school and like interviewed people and we did like a little.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got some cool shots and stuff like that.
What'd that do for your confidence back then?
It was huge. I felt like the man. I was like,
yeah, you're like the rock star of the school.
Yeah, I felt like a rock star, I felt like all teachers knew me. I also like I had people. That was where I actually felt like a little bit like. I'm sure you know this, like bit of fame. It's weird when like someone you don't know just comes up to you and like starts talking to you and they know everything about you, and I'm like, it's cool. It's also weird
at a young age too. That's got to be weird to deal with.
Yeah, it was, but it was. It was super cool. It was also for me. It was kind of like the thing that kind of killed me is I felt like I just wanted to go and like pursue my career and stuff, and I still had 2 more years of high school. And I was just like, this sucks. I don't want to be writing like a stupid like geography exam or something. Like I want to be making apps and, doing stuff like that. Yeah. And it just felt like I was held back. And my school was also, I'm very privileged. I did go to like one of the best schools in South Africa. But it was super intense in terms of like our workload. The academics were insane. We had like compulsory sports and like, so I had very little free time. But the free time I did have, I basically spent all of it on like just trying to work on my career and pursue that stuff.
Yeah. When did you come over to the U.S.?
So that was the timing of everything worked out perfectly because I was supposed to come to college in America right after. So our school years in South Africa go from January to December. So I was supposed to come the following August. So I'd have 8 months off. There's actually also something that's like. Everything kind of just works out the way it's supposed to. Like, I didn't want to go to high school. To college at all. And so I'm super grateful that, like, my parents were like, no, you have to do this. Because I was so set on, like, I want to go straight into working. Yeah. And, just pursue that. Yeah, programming. Like, I had so many, like, I thought there was so much potential that, right after all the success. And there was. So I had, there's, I would say the biggest like mobile games publisher in the world right now is Voodoo Games. At the time, especially, they had reached out to me and they wanted to do a contract with me, like have me working for them. And I obviously couldn't do that whilst I was busy with school. So that was something I really wanted to pursue, was work with Voodoo for a bit. So right after high school, I did start working with them, and I worked with them for about 8 months. And then I moved to another company called Boombits. They're also like a huge Polish company. Same kind of thing, like mobile games. But I applied to 4 colleges for that August after high school. It was all like California colleges, UCLA, UCSD, USC, and then Georgia Tech, because my brother's at Georgia Tech. And I didn't get into any of them. I got waitlisted at 2. So I got waitlisted at UCSD and Georgia Tech.
Did they not know who you were?
I don't know.
Did
That's
you tell them?
that. Like, I guess I was kind of like cocky. I thought like, I'll definitely get one of these 4, and I didn't.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I'm so grateful that I had this like all this exposure and like app development career, because like I wouldn't be in America if I hadn't done all that stuff. I think like I wouldn't have got through college admissions as an international student to like the schools I applied to without having that on my resume.
Yeah.
Because it's not like my academics were. I mean, I was like top 10 in my school, but I wasn't.
Small school.
We had about 170, but it's not like I wasn't like getting straight A's like everything, and yeah. So it was that definitely helped a ton. But so I reapplied immediately for like schools the next year on. So I basically had more than a gap year. It ended up being like, and then COVID hit. So I got into UT Austin for the spring afterwards. So that was a whole year gap year. Then COVID hit, so I did that semester online from South Africa because I couldn't. There was a travel ban, and I mean also that I think that worked out nicely because that I didn't travel, because my first year experience at UT would have been terrible if I got there during COVID. So it was kind of nice that like I had my gap year during COVID, and I was working remotely anyway. Voodoo and Boombits are both European companies, so it really like COVID didn't like affect me much. And once I started college, I kind of moved away from I kind of just put that aside because I wanted to go more into like artificial intelligence stuff. And so most of my time at UT has been focusing on like AI classes and trying to specialize in all that.
How was it in South Africa during COVID? Was it the same?
COVID was terrible.
Or worse than they were
we
treating
had
us
it
over here?
We had it way worse than y'all had it here.
Yeah.
We had restrictions and all kinds of things. Probably one of the weirdest restrictions is we had an alcohol ban. So you can't, like, all the liquor
Really?
stores closed down. Yeah, you can't purchase alcohol anywhere.
What was their reasoning behind that?
So basically, I think the government's like whole idea behind doing this was that we already had so much strain on the hospitals from COVID cases, and I guess their reasoning was that like limiting alcohol is going to prevent like crimes and like crime-related violence and stuff. And
But weren't you guys locked up in your
townships
houses?
well, the problem is like in rural areas and
Yeah.
and townships and that, I guess. I mean, I honestly think it's the weirdest ban, but I mean, I think that was like maybe part of the reasoning.
Yeah.
Obviously, people found a way around it. It was like,
They always do.
it's like people putting like vodka in a hand sanitizer bottle, and that's how you like travel
Living
with
by
it.
prison rules in
Yeah.
your own house.
It was
Yeah.
ridiculous. So, all the liquor stores closed down, and it was like you could only go to the shops like once a day, kind of thing. All kinds of weird restrictions. I mean, I remember even so. I live by the beach. After high school, my family moved down to the coast, and we weren't even allowed to go on the beach. This is like a public beach. Like there's literally, if you go there out of season, there's literally no one there. It's like hundreds of, meters. There won't be like a person around you, and like you're not allowed to go in there. And it was weird because you'd see like, I remember there was a time where like there were surfers like surfing out in front of on the beach in front of us, and the police showed up. Like obviously these guys can't be surfing there, so they just started throwing stun grenades at them in the water.
Stun grenades?
Yeah, whilst they surf. I mean, how are you gonna give COVID to the guy on a board who's like 10 foot away from you, like whilst you're surfing?
That's just how insane we got as a world. Yeah.
But COVID was really bad, and for me it was nice that like once I moved down here, like that was August of 2021. We still had really strict restrictions in South Africa, but I got to Texas, and like obviously no one in Texas cares. It was basically like coming back to like complete freedom, and you know, no, they weren't like we had a mask mandate as well in South Africa. You know, none of that stuff when I got here, so that was really nice.
So Texas was just like, if you want to wear a mask, wear one. If you don't,
Yeah,
don't.
exactly.
Yeah, it's the same as here in Florida.
Yeah. So, but I think America is way better equipped to deal. I mean, obviously, it's like you can't compare us. Like, this is a first world country compared to South Africa. Like, we weren't ready to deal with COVID, you know?
Yeah.
So
is that a big culture shock in general? Just, I mean, take COVID out of it, coming from South Africa to the United States, and especially like landing in Austin.
It was different. I mean, so I had been to America a couple times before coming here for college, just for like different things. One of them was actually I went to Apple flew me out to like their conference in California, so that was like the last time I'd come here before. So I had seen America like a couple times, but it's a whole different thing like coming to a place to live there as opposed to just going on like vacation or visiting. You know? So that was definitely very different. And
what was your first impression? Like when you came and lived with those first few weeks?
It was awesome. So we did. So my brother, he's at Georgia Tech. Oh, he was. I mean, he's doing a master's at Georgia Tech right now, but he was doing his undergrad at the time at Georgia Tech. So my dad and I flew into Atlanta, and this was the other thing is like because there was such strict travel restrictions, so I could only travel because I had a student visa. My dad had work-related stuff, so he could come with me, but like my mom couldn't come. Because you know it would be nice to have both my parents come and settle me into college, but that just couldn't happen. So my dad and I flew into Atlanta, and we did like a little road trip. My dad, my brother, and I from Atlanta to Austin. That was really fun. I got to see like most of the South, but Austin was awesome. I mean, I've always wanted to live in like a big city. So you know, I grew up in Johannesburg, which is like our biggest city. But that's a whole different thing. Living in Johannesburg as opposed to living in Austin, because we have such bad crime in Johannesburg. It's like you guys can't even comprehend like how bad the crime is there compared to Austin. Like you take things for granted, like walking around on the streets in Austin. Like I wouldn't do that in Johannesburg.
Really? Is it that bad?
It's terrible. Yeah.
What?
Well, tell them about your house. Like, how do you like security?
Yeah.
At your
So
house?
I mean, so we lived in a gated complex with like barbed wire fences, like electric fences, motion detectors, security cameras, armed response. We have magnetic locking gates. We have all this stuff. My house was still broken into, like, I think it was 5 or 6 times. I was home for one of the robberies.
They tied
I think you were telling me about this.
Yeah, so that's a whole story. I can go through it quick. But basically, this was when I was 16. I just finished writing an exam after school. I got home. So when you write an exam, you get home early. So I was at home. The rest of my family was out. So it was just me at home alone. And I literally just got back. My mom dropped me off and went home. I mean, she went out for lunch or whatever. And I was upstairs. I went up to the bathroom. I was washing my face off in the bathroom. And as I looked up, there's just a guy like standing in my doorway with a gun. And he could hardly speak English, but he just says, "Come, give me everything." So I'm like, okay, and I'm terrified now. I'm like, so I took him into my room. Like, I don't know what to do. I show him my wallet. Like, there's nothing in there anyway. I'm like 16 years old. So and he starts searching around the house. As he takes me out of my room, there's 2 more guys that run up the stairs, and they all have guns. And so they're all talking to each other in like another language. I think it was Xhosa. So I don't speak Xhosa. I can understand a word of it. So they take me into my parents' room, and they actually tied me up there.
Damn.
It was terrifying. So I mean, they they're like frantically searching the house, trying to find, you know, anything valuable to steal. And this one guy had me tied up, and I mean, it's terrible, but like I literally thought I was gonna die. I mean, I remember I looked up at him and he said like, "Hey, if you look at me, I'll blow your brains out." And there's nothing you can do. I'm like tied up, and
yeah,
you know, they all got guns.
Well, you're 16 years old as well.
Yeah. And I'm just like praying, and you know, and they all come back in. Basically, these guys are pros. They had like huge sledgehammer, crowbar. We had a rifle. It's like a huge safe, like a rifle safe, basically, with like thick metal. They broke it open with like a couple hits. Like they had definitely done this before. They stole everything that was in there.
What are the gun laws?
So it's very restricted. I mean, I don't know all this like off the top of my head, but I do know it's definitely not it's way more restricted than it is here. You can't just walk into a shop and like, you know,
buy a gun.
You need to get like gun licenses are hard to come by. And even then, the thing is, I mean, even if let's say
criminals had guns.
Yeah, well, they're all stolen.
Yeah.
So that's like, so we had a gun in the safe, and that's probably like running with some criminal now on the streets of Joburg. Because that's how it goes. They steal all the guns. And I mean, even if I did have a gun and I was prepared to shoot someone, like I would be terrified that like we don't have the same protections that Americans do if you shoot someone in your house in America because they broke in, like
justified,
you know. Whereas in South Africa, I would probably be pretty scared that there's still going to be like legal consequences for me, like just defending myself, which is, you know. But in hindsight, like I'm just glad that, you know, obviously got out of it safe and no one was hurt or anything.
Did they just leave you there tied up?
Well, actually, that was the crazy thing. So I mean, yeah, they left me tied up. They locked me in the bathroom tied up. But I had so much adrenaline in my system. The next day I woke up just like vomiting uncontrollably. And I was like, I said to my parents, like, hey, like this is not normal. I'm like, this is not, like, I'm seriously like throwing up. Like, it was the worst pain I ever felt. Basically, we went to hospital and like my appendix was about to burst. None of the doctors like understood why. They were just like, you just had so much adrenaline in your system that like your intestines, whatever, couldn't cope with it. So I got my appendix removed the next morning.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Just from adrenaline, like it was terrifying. But yeah, it's you know, I'm glad we can like talk about it now.
Yeah,
and that's like a life-changing experience when you experience something like that.
I mean, it doesn't matter what age you are, but I mean, at a young age, for sure.
Yeah, it's like
to deal with something like that.
Yeah, but I try and look at it like I'm almost glad that like, not glad it happened, but like it gives you a different outlook on life. Like, you know, I'm very much more grateful for like things you take for granted than, you know, if that hadn't happened.
Probably grateful when you got to the United States too, huh?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's such a that's another thing. It's such a blessing to be born here. You know, I think like I love America. This is my family's immigrating here. We wouldn't be doing that if this wasn't like the best country in the world.
Yeah. Even with like, obviously you've been here for some years now, like with all the chaos that you see going on in America, like I guess I don't know, it's controlled chaos or chaos that's just put out there to drive fear into everybody. I mean, is this something you look at and you're like, oh, I know what this is?
Well, it's like I look at a lot of it like with this perspective, like coming from South Africa, where I'm like, yeah, these are all first world problems, you know?
Yeah.
In South Africa, we have like half the population that's like starving and is like living in complete poverty. It's like, yeah, it's like a lot of the problems here are still like first world problems, you know?
Yeah.
Which it's...
You're like, why are you guys bitching about this?
Yeah. So it's like, it's a good position to be in for like America, you know? Obviously, it's like there's still serious problems, but it's just like you can't compare when you go home to a place like that where there's like, you know, everyone's just struggling way worse.
Yeah. So what do you think some of the biggest differences are between, I mean, South Africa and here, besides like the crime and all that, but just like everyday life?
I don't know. I think our culture is actually like very similar in a lot of ways. But I don't know. There's some things I just miss, like about, you know, being at home, like watching rugby games and stuff like that. You know, now I guess I like get used to watching football games, the same kind of thing. So it's almost as good.
So like you, except you pansies wear pads and helmets.
We do. Oh yeah.
I'm talking about America.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Rugby's no joke.
Yeah. I played a bit in high school, which is fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of things are different. I most like our food as well. We have really good food in South Africa.
Really? What
Yeah.
kind? What's like some of the main staples?
Oh, for the best thing is biltong. Biltong is like, it's like jerky almost.
Yeah.
But we like prepare it differently. Like I would say, like if I had to describe, like compare it, it's like less processed version of jerky, and it just like tastes better.
Okay.
But yeah, that's like, we call it a braai. What you'll call a barbecue. It's like we call that a braai. We just like, I don't know. It's just different. It's like I don't know how you begin to describe it.
Yeah.
Like to me, that just like feels like home, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure it has some a nostalgic aspect to it. That.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's.
But I mean, in terms of like, yeah, like cultural differences, it doesn't, like to me, it doesn't feel too different. But also because like, I mean, I think a lot of the South African culture is like based on, we look at like America and Europe, and that's like what we aspire to be, kind of, I think.
Okay.
Like, so that's a lot of our influence is like American media, European media, and it's kind of just a mix of all that, you know? So it's not like I came here and I was like, oh, I've never seen these things before or whatever.
Yeah. Y'all follow American news?
Yeah, but we only get like pretty liberal news channels like CNN. Like we couldn't get like Fox or anything like that. So we definitely don't have like a holistic like perspective of America. Like South Africans definitely get much more of the left media.
Really?
But that's, I mean, I don't know if there's like a reason for that or whatever, but it's just like, I don't.
Well, it's all, I mean, the liberal media.
This was even before, like when Trump was still in, it was like.
Oh yeah, they control everything that's, I mean, not the liberal media. There's a higher echelon that controls what's being put out to the world. What's going on in America. And yeah, it's a one-sided view. Obviously, it's he who has the most amount of money can. Yeah,
exactly.
Be like, okay, this is what you're going to see.
Yeah.
I've talked to other people from different countries. It's the same thing. They just have
which is a pity. I mean, I wish we had like.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that.
And like, I wish we could actually just get like a all-around view of like, you know, both sides of the picture, and not just like we only get CNN. You know.
I got my first taste of that when Trump was voted into office. I was actually headed to Iraq, and we stopped off in Germany, and it was literally the day after, 2 days after Trump won the election, and we were in a bar in Germany, at a hotel bar, and it was packed in there. Yeah. It was just me and my buddy, and yeah, the people in there were like irate that Trump was president, just going nuts. And I remember like thinking to myself, I'm like, what does it matter to, like, first off, how are you guys have these opinions over here, and like, what does it matter to you, you know? But they were, and then me and my buddy were playing darts, and a couple people came over like, oh, you're American? We're like, yeah. And they're like, what do you think about this? I'm like, I voted for him. Yeah. And they looked at me like, what? And I'm like, yeah.
That's like, a funny thing as well. It's like,
it's
I remember in South Africa, when Trump first got voted in, like around that election, like I remember, you know, it's got nothing to do with South Africa, but it was all we were talking about as well. Like because we're super interested in like, I mean, I feel like that's also like a difference of like, you know, kind of like South African perspective and American perspective. Like, it's the same reason why a lot of Americans don't even leave the country, is because you'll have everything here, you know, and like for a lot of Americans, they don't know anything else than like America.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas for us, we like, I think it's also because a lot of us aspire to more than just what South Africa is right now. So we look at like what else is going on around the world, you know?
Yeah. I'd say most Americans don't follow any other country news, or
Yeah.
I mean, they're just focused on what's happening within the states.
Yeah.
Well, they're very ignorant to
Exactly,
Americans
yeah.
we're ignorant
And
to anything else that goes on in the rest of the world. We think
That's very
Americans
true.
think everything revolves around us.
Yeah.
And that's
It's a good and a bad
partly
thing.
it's true, right? Like
Yeah.
just like you talked about, like you're watching American news over there.
Yeah.
But that's the, I guess, idea of a lot of Americans is like, well, everybody knows what's going on with us. We're like, we're the biggest thing, you know.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And I got my first taste of that when I went to Ireland, and I was just at a pub, and this was like 12 years ago, and it was me and Andrea, and we were just talking to some people there, and they were asking, you know, what I did for work, and I was like, oh, I'm in the military, you know, I'm, you know, whatever, in the Navy, and you know, fighting the war. They're like, what war?
Yeah.
And I was like, 9/11. Did you? And they're like, no. Like they had no
They didn't
clue.
know.
No. And
No way.
I was like,
No way.
you know, and I'm in shock. Like, what? But then I like thought about it. And I'm like, dude, how self-absorbed am
Yeah.
I that I'm like looking at, talking to people from another country. They're like, how do you not know what's going on with us when, you know, the Irish, they deal with stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So they got their own problems. They're like, dude,
Yeah.
you know, you guys aren't the biggest thing.
Yeah. But I mean, I still look at it like, I mean, I think America is kind of like, I mean, it's kind of the backbone of a lot of the world.
Oh, it is.
And so it's a good and a bad thing that like Americans think that, you know, it's just like you're saying, like the only problem is like the ignorance. And I see it where like, I mean, even some of my friends, like they want to go to Europe after they're done with college or whatever. Like it's not like going to Europe is not going to fix their problems or whatever that you're seeing. Yeah, it's because I think a lot of people think that like the grass is greener on the other side, but they don't realize that like so many things in America are like actually so good, and like a lot of the stuff here is like it's so awesome. There's really like this like because I look at it like there's not much to complain about here because again I compare it to like. Or what South Africa is like.
Well, yeah, because you have perspective.
Yeah.
And a lot of Americans don't.
Yeah.
This is all they know.
Yeah, exactly.
So the worst thing to them is the probably nothing to you. You're like, this
Yeah.
isn't, what are you guys whining about?
Exactly, that's it. So.
But I will say this, that's also what makes, why our country is so great, because we refuse to, you know, have these little things happen to us and we fight back on them. Like, nope. You're taking away our rights. You're doing this.
Yeah,
We're
that's
not
a
gonna
good
let that
thing. It's
happen,
like-
which is why it keeps us the way we are. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it can come off as like, you know,
Yeah.
you're like you said, first world problems. Like,
Yeah.
come on now. Like I was talking to my buddy the other day. We were at the gym, and I was trying to get my headphones working, and one of them wouldn't charge. And I was just like, dude, I was
Damn it.
ticked. You know, I was like getting ready to go on a run on the treadmill.
Yeah.
He was saying he's having the same issue, and we're sitting there bitching for a minute, like, dude, this freaking headphones, you know. And then I just looked at him. I'm like, first world problems, I guess, you know, and like walked away because you just have to realize, like, dude, I'm literally bitching about one of my headphones doesn't work while,
Yeah.
you know,
A
there's
beautiful gym. And
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
come on,
Air
best places in the
conditioned, yeah.
world. Yeah. Dude, so if you were getting fed only getting fed left information about America, and then you show up in Texas,
Yeah. Well, it's
was
kind
that
of
like, whoa?
Well, you're in Austin, though.
Austin is also kind of
Austin,
like interesting. I'd say Austin's like 50-50. Either people like very left or very right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of weird for me, like, because I think Americans, like, people almost like identify with their like political views. Like in South Africa, that's not a thing. It's like we don't have like no one
Yeah.
really cares that much about like.
Well, I think you moved here in a time where it's definitely
It's very
so
polarized.
divided, where it's
Yeah.
either you're one or the other.
Yeah.
It's like I'm on this team or I'm on that team.
Yeah.
And nobody is like a individual, you know, like, hey, I believe in both.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like you have to join a side.
See, like in South Africa, it's more like people don't really care about like they just want to better South Africa. So if it's like, well, if this party is gonna do it or whatever, like they just want to better South Africa. Whereas here, it's like no, it's like this. I'm only gonna go for this party or whatever. But Austin was awesome, and it's like when I came here, I obviously didn't even know much about that stuff. it was just great. Like I remember my first year of college it was so fun. All these new experiences and like so much going on. So it was great.
Yeah, did you go party in Austin a bunch?
Yeah, that was, well, obviously, I mean, I came here for like education, obviously, so that was the first thing, but I've made the most of it, and obviously, like getting to know, like met tons of people. One of the first things I did was join a fraternity, which has turned out to be like the most fun ever. I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, not just for like the parties and stuff, but like I've made some, like all my best friends in America have been through that experience. And I made really good connections here, and I mean that's how I'm here for the summer. That's how I met Trip and all that. So, it's definitely been like, it's funny because like I said before, I was thinking about like not doing college. I'm so glad I did. Like I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah.
Because it really has been like, you got one year left. I'm gonna enjoy it, but the past 3 years have been like the best ever. So
it's really cool that you got to come here and have that experience.
Yeah, and I feel very blessed that
and especially ending up
I
here.
get to do that. Yeah,
and where we're at here on the 30A, and
yeah,
and you're
Texas,
cleaning up shop down here with that accent.
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, yeah, Texas as well is like so when I applied for colleges second time around, I applied like everywhere. I did like all the southern schools and like a bunch of other ones like Chicago, and just everywhere I could apply to. I did like 12 applications or 13 or something. And Texas was the first one to come back with a response, and they were like, hey, you're accepted. You got a week to accept your offer, because I applied for the spring intake. So I don't know if that's just like an international student spring intake thing, but like I only had a week to accept it. And I remember when I first got that email from them, I was like, it's another rejection. Here we go. And I opened it up, and it was like, at the time, I didn't really realize like what a big thing that was, like to get into Texas and how like life-changing that would be. It's a great school. So
to be honest, out of all cities, for you to be between Santa Rosa Beach and Austin,
it's probably the two coolest cities in all of Texas.
Throw Nashville in there. Like, there's only a handful of like really awesome cities. I feel like
I lucked out pretty hard. So
and especially Austin for tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's blowing up. Like I mean everyone's kind of saying it's going to be like the new Silicon Valley kind of thing.
Yeah, because Elon Musk is down there, right?
Yeah, he's got a lot of Tesla stuff.
Yeah.
New like SpaceX, whatever.
Yeah, Austin's blown up.
What
are your thoughts, like, so between Austin and here, like this area in general, like just coming from South Africa, then living in Austin, and then getting to spend summers here. What are your thoughts on this place? Because I'm still blown away by this place. This place is sort of like a magical spot.
For me, it's very special because it actually feels a lot like home, because like I said, I grew up in Johannesburg, and so we would always go down to this place by the coast for holiday in South Africa. It's a beautiful little spot, and like my family's moved down there full time now in the Eastern Cape. And to me, this feels a lot like that place. Yeah. It's the same kind of little town. It's very like secluded, and all like awesome people living here. And so for me, that feels like very, very similar. And so it's awesome to be like spending my summers here. I mean, this is like the best place it could possibly be for the summer.
Yeah, it's like paradise.
And then also, like I said, I'm a big like city person, so Austin is really fun, especially for college students. I mean, there's so much going on and there's so much to do.
Have you gone to the Comedy Mothership?
No, I want to.
Yeah.
I want to. I think Shane Gillis was there not too long ago.
Yeah, I think Trip went to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to do that.
It's on my to-do list for sure. To get out there and see that.
Yeah, but there's like 1,001 things to do in Austin.
Honestly, awesome. if there was another city that I would have another home in, Telluride maybe one. Honestly, Telluride's really cool, just for winters and summers. But Austin would be one of the ones. Austin's a really, really cool city. And
it's
for
growing
you,
so fast.
For you, it's one of the best. I think it's better than living in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you couldn't live in Silicon Valley now unless you just like rent a closet somewhere.
Yeah, I live in a shoebox. Like,
Yeah, but
honestly, Austin's going the same. I mean,
Yeah, it's gonna blow up there in Austin. To where
That's
it's
crazy
become so
'cause, like,
expensive and
yeah. So I live in West Campus, which is just off of like obviously just off of campus. That's where all the like students really live. And I mean, it's insane how fast they're developing. There's probably like at least 3 or 4 buildings, like high-rise buildings going up at a time. There's one right next to the, like, I just moved into a brand new apartment last year, first one in my room, and there's like a brand new building going up next to me, like a 30-story like skyscraper. I think it's gonna be like done this year. Like, it's literally, you look at the skyline, it's all just like cranes, and like there's so much development going on. It's insane.
and a lot of AI development.
Yeah, well, that as well.
Yeah. Are you still wanting to pursue AI?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't know. We'll see where things go after I graduate. So obviously, that's kind of like undecided right now because we'll see. Well, obviously, so this app I'm working on this summer, hopefully that takes off. I don't know if I've told you much about that.
what's a social media app, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we talked about it for a little bit.
Yeah. So it's called Joel, and it's
Yeah.
actually, so Joel is actually a South African word. It means to party, to have fun. It's just like to have a good time, and everyone in South Africa knows what a Joel is. It's a good time, and this is just something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Like, I haven't really been like satisfied with what social media is becoming, like, and what, like, I think I kind of just saw this, like, I think there's this gap in what like social media needs and what it is right now. And so basically the idea behind Joel is like trying to focus more on like actually connecting people to meet up in real life and actually hang out in real life.
Yeah,
And kind of just bring things back to like, that's what social media should be for, is like,
well, that's what I think it initially started out.
What it
as,
started
right?
out as,
Yeah,
and
because I
now
remember getting on Facebook years ago.
Yeah.
I was on a deployment when Facebook, came around, and it was one of those weird things where you're like, all right, like, I'll sign up for it.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of cool because you're like, oh, dude, I haven't seen this guy in like 10 years or, this
exactly.
person, and they're on there, which made it real interesting. And I thought it was like cool back then to be like, okay, I can connect with these people that I haven't seen, especially, from my perspective, is like I'm deployed all the time.
Yeah.
I never have time to like even reach out to anybody. So
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
like a way to sort of connect. Even then there's some people you don't want to connect with. You're like,
Yeah,
I don't want to see that
exactly.
person. But that's what was the draw for me. But then I think over time it's turned into what you're talking
Yeah.
about. It's like this toxic
It's driven by like
Yeah.
likes and
likes
posting
and like
media and
it's
revenue.
become how
It's all artificial is the way I say it.
it's fake.
Yeah.
It's just it's a fake thing that people, get on, and then I'll go ahead and say it can be used for good.
Yeah.
There are some positive aspects to it, but I think the way that it's sort of morphed into what it is now, there's so much more negative aspects to it than the cons outweigh the pros.
Yeah.
And it seems like it just keeps driving
Yeah.
towards that direction. Which I think, so your idea where I do like it, where it's like, hey, it sort of reverts back to what it originally started out as. It's
Yeah.
like, this is to meet, connect with people, but then yours is like, can not only connect, but meet up. Like, hey,
Yeah.
we're connect, but then we're going to hang out.
So the whole core idea with Joel is like the idea of like you share your plans with your friends and your friends share their plans, and basically like behind the scenes it's going to do all the like coordinating and planning and tell you what's like the best plan for all of you guys. Basically just a way of like letting you see what your friends are up to. And I think like especially for college students it could be really fun where like I think about like this is one of those things where it's like I wish this was an app I had. And so that's why I wanted to work on it so bad. Actually had the idea 4 years ago. I was telling Dave just the other day, I remember looking on my Apple account, like I registered the thing 4 years ago. But it's something I wish I had, where I could just see, like, you know, instead of texting like 50 people every day, like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing tonight? Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? Like, you could just, like, you know, post and, like, share it in a way that's, like, you know, no one would just post on their story like, hey, let's go to this bar or whatever. That's weird.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is, like, trying to make a way that's, like, fun and engaging and natural and more, like, you know, meaningful to, like, connect with people and, like, share what you're up to and help people, like, you know, make plans with each other.
Yeah. Will there be, like, restrictions on it as far as, so, like, if you're putting out, like, hey, we're in this area, let's meet up. This is what I'm doing. Because that way, I mean,
you mean like a private?
Yeah, obviously there's some concerns with that, like, especially for kids. If kids got on it, like, hey, I'm here, and it's like you could have, you know, predators, like, okay, I know where all these kids are going to be.
Exactly. So when I launched it, well, firstly, when I launched it, I'm going to be aiming for, like, 18 and up. So that, like, that's
okay.
Mostly just for, like, legal reasons. And but obviously I'm trying to do as much as I can to prevent that in terms of, like, you know, using serious encryption and authentication and stuff like that. And honestly, like, most of the summer, like Dave knows, the first half has been focused on, you know, setting up my back end and security and, like, so that's, you know, I know that, like, people's data is safe, and it's, like, I'm pretty confident that, like, touch wood, that no one's going to hack into, like, my servers or whatever, and that stuff is all secure. But then there's also, like, from the user's perspective, like, I want it's you know, like traditional social media where, like, you invite your friends and you connect with, like, you have your own network.
Yeah.
So when you share those kind of plans, it's just with your network. It's not like the whole world is going to see that, oh, you're going out to this bar tonight or whatever. It's just with you and your friends.
Okay.
And then even on top of that, if you want to, like, share plans more privately, like, you know, sometimes you want to do something with just, like, 10 friends or whatever, not, like, your entire...
You might have one or two friends that nobody likes.
Exactly.
Like, hey,
yeah, whatever.
invite them.
If that's the case, yeah.
It happens, yeah.
That's the hard part as well, is trying to design it so there's, like, you know, you can do private plans if you want to. And again, it's more than just, like, making a group chat. Like, that's what I'm trying to make it. Like, you interact with this thing in a way that's different than just, like, throwing 10 people in a group chat or whatever. It's more about, like, actually seeing what time works best for people, like, who's actually, like, trying to see beforehand which of your friends are going to be on board for whatever before, like, actually planning stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then this app will, like, once you have that all confirmed, like, hey, these 10 friends are down, that app will then formulate, like, a plan for you guys. Like, hey, you can go do this, this, and this. Or, like, is that what the end state is? So, like, sort of
kind of
give you, like, hey, there's these cool restaurants or these cool bars or whatever you guys can all go to.
Yeah. Well, so it's kind of like I was saying, like, it's more like you share your preference of, like, what you want to do, and everyone kind of does this. And so when you log on, you can see what, like, everyone else is thinking of doing, and you can interact with that in a way that, like, you know, in, like, typical social media sense, you can, like, look at something and be like, oh, I like this, I don't like this, whatever. So, but
it'd be like you and Andrea's would be like an Irish dive bar.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be it. Like, you know where to
every
find
day.
us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wouldn't be too hard to find us.
Yeah.
But if I'm what I like about it is if I'm going out on Friday night, especially as a college student, or
I think that's why my target audience is, like, firstly as college students, where, like, you know, in UT and especially in Greek life, there's, like, at least, like, 1,000+ people in Greek life or whatever. Mm-hmm. And well, I say that because they're, like, the most outgoing and who would probably use this app the most. And honestly, like, everyone really knows each other, but you might not know. Well, it's like everyone really knows each other, but you're not going to go and text, like, 100 of these people every weekend and say, hey, what are you doing? Or, like, where are you going? Whatever. Mm-hmm. Especially in Austin, where there's, like, you know, there's 100 different bars to go to. This place might be going off one night, and, like, next night might be boring, whatever. So I just think it would be really fun if, like, I could wake up one morning and just see, like, oh, this is what everyone's going to be doing tonight or tomorrow or whatever. And maybe I don't want to do anything. Like, I can just see, okay, I'm not going to be missing much. Like, then I don't have to have like any FOMO or whatever. I can just be like, okay, cool, like not much is going on. So it's kind of just like trying to make a more fun way to interact with, like,
Yeah,
you
to
know,
make
sharing
plans and go
with
out.
everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's a good idea. I mean, that's where Facebook started out, as in college, to like connect people, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly. So
Yeah. So, and I mean, now it's weird where like Facebook is kind of just like, that's like, no, like, I don't think that's like a thing that like young people use, you
no,
know?
Facebook is like my kids say, they're like, dude, that's for boomers. Like,
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's like the Flintstones of social media. You know, you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, great. You guys stay on there.
That's
'Cause
kind of why like I saw this opportunity is like, I can't think of like a social media app where there is something like this where you can just be like, you know, reaching out to your friends and sharing plans with it. Like, I don't think, like, I would say the best thing, everyone in college has like Snapchat and Instagram, and that's about it. And then even then, most people like now, I think especially my age, like 22, 23, don't really like Snapchat that much because it's also, it goes back to like, Snapchat just feels like artificial and fake. You know, they even have features now where you can like just snap 100 people at once. Like, that doesn't really feel like you got a meaningful invite to something or text message or whatever.
yeah.
Well, you're bringing it back to your goal is bringing back to in person. Their
Yeah.
goal is to post more.
Yeah, the
like
goal
more
isn't to just
user
like
engagement.
keep sending pictures back and forth like meaningless, like,
Yeah.
you know, the goal is to like, because I mean that's what I use my phone for, is like I don't like go and, you know, snap people all day long or like do it. Like I use my phone to like say to my friends, hey, let's do something or let's do this or whatever. So it's trying to take it back to that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
make it more personable.
Yeah. But again, in a way that's more than just like a group chat. It's like trying to integrate like everyone's preferences and their time and all of that.
Oh.
So
That'd
just
be
bring it
awesome.
back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea.
It
And
was-
I think it's more about like the execution. I think that's what it boils down to with a lot of apps is like how well you can like execute it, and I think I've pretty confident so like I can do it. So it might take like a little while, but
Oh, I believe, yeah, you can. I mean, dude, you're 15 years old,
yeah.
making video games, and Apple was hitting you up on their own. I mean,
You were
I'm
front page of Carte Blanc, man.
yeah.
there you go.
Dude,
Yeah.
so I'll tell you this, is you starting out, what, 2.5 months ago, 2 months ago,
Yeah.
when you came here and started working on it, right, from the get-go, and I have a pretty good perspective, I think, of or a wide range of development as far as back-end, front-end,
Yeah.
and understanding of it, and your execution on everything from database schema to
Yeah.
pageation and caching.
Oh, it's the worst.
And I am blown away at how far along you are now, where you're working on front end features and how well you've built it this far. It's
Appreciate
pretty
it.
incredible.
Yeah.
Like, you've almost made me come blown back to believing in a full stack developer.
Yeah.
I used to think, full stack. Full stack
It's,
is like,
rare breed.
yeah, it would be like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a Navy SEAL reference for it, but it would be like someone that.
I'm just sitting here like, yeah, full stack developer. I'm right on
Yeah.
there with you guys.
Yeah, but
I have no idea.
I hadn't believed in it because it's like, man, usually people specialize in specific things, right? And I'm like, well, if you're kind of a generalist overall, like you're not really great at any area.
Yeah,
but I've
exactly.
seen
yeah,
you
we have
be-
a name for that in the teams.
Yeah,
What do you call it?
Jack of all trades,
Jack of all
master of
trades.
none.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I'm watching.
you're like a multi-tool. You can do pretty much
That's what a full
any
stack
job,
developer is.
but you're not a master at each one. You're like, yes,
Yeah.
I can, and that's pretty much what we sort of say. We're in the SEAL teams. That's what we are. They're like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm a jack of all trades, a master of none. I mean, there
Yeah,
are
yeah.
guys that dive into, like sniping or whatever, and they're like,
Yeah.
okay, yes, I'm this is my subject matter expert.
you got a
but
foot
for
in
most
every
of
door.
us, we have so many qualifications that, like, I've used myself for example, like sniper, breacher, medic, Hearst cast, static line, free fall, jump master. Like I have all. So if you look at it, you're like, dude, you have all these quals. Now I'm not a master in any of those. I'm not like, yes, I know the ins and outs of all, of sniping or breaching, even though I think the populace probably thinks that.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like, no, I can do all of these things, but in depth, I'm not a complete master at it. And there are some guys that are, but that's what, you're like a multi-tool.
Exactly.
But I've seen you be. It's almost like he's been a master at a lot of them.
Yeah.
Along the way, and it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. So I think that's my biggest like assets is just like I would say my tenacity. Just keep working at it, and so that's also the way I've kind of seen this summer is like it's been one of the funnest summers ever. But it's also like I spend most nights up here working till 2 a.m. Just because I see it as like I really want to finish this thing and like make something I'm proud of.
Yeah, you got a goal.
It could work out great. So it's just like trying to get this done and like I have this vision in mind, that I'm working towards. And so when I have something like that in mind, and I have like the opportunity to work on it, so like super grateful that you all are giving me this, to work on it for the summer. Like then, like that's all I need. Like I work at it nonstop, and like I know like there's no like it's not like a reach points in development where I'm like this is a problem I can't solve. I just keep working at it, Like eventually you get there.
Yeah, consistency. And just keep plugging away at it.
Yeah,
and that's awesome that you have that work ethic. Which I think is something that's missing with a lot of kids in this country too. Is the work ethic and like they expect things just to be given to them, or like you said, they hit a roadblock. They're like, now you do this for me because I don't know how to do this. And you're like, nope, I'm going to figure this out and keep plugging away and just do it myself.
Yeah. And I mean, I see it as well as like that's what's gotten me so far. And so it is kind of nerve-wracking as well, like working on something this big as well. Like this is definitely like the most ambitious project I've ever worked on. And every time I work on an app like this, it's like, there's a good chance it could fail completely. But there's also a chance it could be like
and that's the fun
next,
in it, right?
Yeah.
The risk that you're taking, you're like,
Exactly, yeah. But it's like this, it could be, Taurus 2.0 where it gets like 500,000 downloads. And like, I never know. I never would have thought that app would get like 500,000 downloads, but like it did. And you just don't know. But it's all like, you just got to keep working. And like, I was super let down after that first app I released, I worked on for 2 years. Actually, I take it back. That was probably the biggest project I've ever worked on. Literally worked on this thing for 2 years and only got like a couple thousand downloads, which is still a ton for, like a teenager at the time. Like, honestly, for anyone in their app development career, but, I was super let down that like that didn't blow up, that didn't make tons of money, that whatever. But it did do something, like it got me connections at Apple.
Yeah.
And like one thing leads to the next.
That's right.
That's what really like, so, it's even if something doesn't work out, it's just like, you're just going to keep working. Something will come right.
What's your projected finish date for Joel?
So the goal has always been to have like the first version live on the App Store by the end of the summer. Because I would love to go back to UT and get all my friends using it and start to see how it works with like real data and like really start testing it out. And obviously, I think it's also gonna be one of those things where like it's gonna keep evolving and like I'll see like it needs this feature or this needs to change or whatever. And I also really want to take into account like a lot of just feedback from people and like just try and build like the best product. And I think that's going to happen through like getting, and this first version will be far from perfect, but just getting people to start using it and hearing what people want, what they like and what they don't like, and then just, making revisions. But the reason for that as well is also because obviously when I go back to school, I'm going to be super busy with my academics, and it's going to be hard to find time to like. That's why this summer is like I'm not going to have opportunity like this where I can just come up to the office and spend the entire day here just working on this app.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to have that in the fall, you know, or
well, that's
next
good.
spring.
I mean, you're prioritizing the time that you have, and you're like, this is the time I have to work on my dream and what I want to accomplish. And it's good that I mean, you have that maturity too to be like, I know I'm not going to have the time.
Yeah,
Go
exactly.
back to school, so this is the time to crush it right now.
Yeah.
And then
And then
obviously
I
you're
graduate next year, and then
Yeah.
you know, if I get a full-time office somewhere, I mean, if this thing isn't taken off by then, like I'm not going to have. That's why it's like I see the opportunity now. Like this is the time to like work on it and get this thing out there. And you know, I'm not going to like. You can't pass up. Like if you get an opportunity like that, you can't just like not take full advantage of it. You know.
Well, you can, but you'd be
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'll be
then-
an idiot for
yeah.
it.
you'd be
Yeah.
wasting your time.
Yeah.
No, that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's. I'll tell you what, man. If I think Joel will be a success, I don't think it's like always. It's either going to be the #1 social media app ever, or
Yeah.
you know, I think there's a lot of area in between.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? We think that way,
And that's
I
the thing
tend
as
to
well.
think that way too,
Not trying to like replace Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. This is
for sure.
part of the ecosystem of like social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I don't know what will happen, but
yeah.
this is what I would bet on. What I am betting on,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
is your success.
Yeah.
And if it is, and it's your attitude, it's your perception, like if I don't know what twists and turns are ahead,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. I mean, it could be a story like Slack, where Slack was a game development company, and they absolutely built this huge team, and they built a little tool for themselves to help develop.
Yeah.
And the game flopped. They went
But Slack
bankrupt.
took off.
And at that moment, he said, well, maybe I just take this little tool that we built internally for us. It ended up being one of the fastest growing softwares, business to business.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know what turns will be ahead, but I believe in your success. I'm betting on it big time. And I think it's like this another step in the road. Like this summer is just this step
Yeah.
of you really leaning in on something huge.
Yeah.
And
Appreciate
then,
it.
and then seeing what happens.
Yeah. But yeah, it is kind of scary. It's like I've no clue where it's gonna. That's the exciting thing as well.
That's the
It's
cool
like,
part of it, though.
Yeah, it's the fun
Yeah.
part is being in the middle of all that, and like experiencing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, dude, I don't know one thing about developing apps or I mean, that's your guys' world, but like Dave said, it's like I have no doubt that Joel, whatever happens with it, it's like I'm just knowing you and
Yeah.
who you are in the amount. I always come up here to the office. You're always here working. You're consistent. You're driven. You have a goal. You're trying to attain it. I'm like, that is the American dream, right? That's America in a nutshell, right there. And this
I love
place,
that.
this place offers you that.
Yeah.
I mean, not everywhere in America. Obviously, there are people that on different ends of the spectrum, and some people don't have those chances. But it is like that is why people from other countries flock to America, so
Yeah.
they have that chance. Not to have something given to them like, oh,
Yeah.
welcome to America, here you go. It's like, no,
Yeah.
welcome to America.
Here's your opportunity.
Here's your opportunity to work for what you want, and
Yeah.
it can happen.
Yeah.
Like that's the beauty of this country,
Yeah.
and I think
I love that about America.
yeah, knowing you and seeing how hard you work, I have no doubt that you're going to be successful here for sure.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
100%. Thank
Yeah.
you, man. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been awesome.
yeah, brother, it's awesome. We're gonna miss you when you take off around here for sure.
I know. I'm sure I'll be back.
I'm sure all
I'm gonna miss
all the
this.
ladies on 30A are gonna be missing you too
Yeah.
with that accent.
Yeah.
When you're front page of the Wall Street Journal, just remember,
Yeah.
you were on Shoot Me Straight first.
That's right.
Of course.
Don't
yeah.
forget about us little people.
I'll be back. Yeah.
awesome.
I'll have to find you on Joel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Out.
Out.